let you know we have our first guest coming on the evening tonight. This is breast cancer survivor Brenda in the house. How are you doing, Brenda?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Thank you for being here tonight, man. You're up in Seattle, Washington area, right?
I am south of Seattle, yes. Pretty
Very,
close though.
very cool. How is the weather there right now?
Oh, right now it's gorgeous. It's beautiful this time of year. Just beautiful.
I have actually never been to Washington State before. I don't think ever. So I need to come up there and visit you sometime.
Absolutely. The tulips north of Seattle are just awesome right now.
I
Yeah.
love tulips, man. Well, I've been bragging on your story tonight, building up to you joining the show, because you have such a very unique story. And, every story of a breast cancer survivor is super unique. I think the only thing that's similar is that we're breast cancer survivors. Everything else is different in some way or another. Your treatments could be a little different, surgeries different, mishaps during your treatment are different. But you have a very powerful story tonight. But let's start off by telling us a little bit about how you first found out you had breast cancer.
I first found out my very first scare was when I was 37 and I got my very first mammogram because my aunt had breast cancer and had passed away. And it was my very first mammogram. They told me that they saw something. So I went right from there to automatically getting an ultrasound and then scheduled for a biopsy if I had no idea what was going on. So that was my very first experience with a scare of breast cancer. And fortunately, they weren't sure what it was. It came back conclusive it was breast cancer. And then I saw another surgeon for a second opinion. And she said, let's get it out first and then we'll go from there. And it turned out to be not breast cancer. So we think now, looking back, because that was 20 years ago, is that it was probably stage 0. So that would probably be my first experience with being told I had breast cancer. And then
Wow.
from there, yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. 'Cause I got the whole scare, the whole shebang, and was terrified. I was just 37 and I had no idea what was going on.
That's
So
a young age to have that diagnosis and super scary. Do you remember if they said if it was like HER2 positive, ER positive, PR positive, triple negative, anything like that? I don't
no,
recall.
in my recollection, I don't even remember they did testing on it, to be
Gotcha.
honest.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we've tried to go back, but it was 20 years ago and they didn't even do gene testing at that point either.
Wow.
So
Wow.
fast forward, I went 4.5 years with nothing. And then, I did some breast cancer walks, tried to get involved in the breast cancer community. I was getting regular mammograms, and in between mammograms, it turned out I had a lump on my left side, and that's when it was breast cancer, and it was stage 3. So
Wow.
went ahead, yeah.
And
So
how
I
long
mean,
was that after the first scare?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, so
yeah.
I mean, at least it sounds like it was possibly slow growing, but you said it was what stage at this point?
It was stage 3, and it was triple negative.
Gotcha.
They recommended that I get some gene testing. I was in the middle of a divorce. It was pretty nasty. I was trying to work and support myself, and felt the only thing I could do was, do radiation. Of course, I had a lumpectomy and whatnot, but I didn't do any chemotherapy at that point. So I went ahead and did the radiation, got the gene testing. It came back positive. I was BRCA1. The oncologist, he really pushed me to get a mastectomy. And, I just felt that wasn't the right choice for me at that point. Continued with the radiation. And then I went 4.5 years with nothing. Again, exactly. It's crazy. 4.5 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, you chose just to do radiation and the lumpectomy.
hmm
What happened after all of that was complete? Do you have any other scares?
Well, they wanted to put me on tamoxifen. I don't really know why we didn't ever get put on that. I think I was just really leery of taking anything. I think I was in denial. I didn't really have a good support system going on. Um, I really didn't know. I was just so naive. All I knew is I had this gene mutation and it made me susceptible to some pretty nasty cancer. And, I tried to go the healthy route. I did make it 4.5 years and I got really sick in January of 2010, and didn't get better. And I worked at a radiology office, which was wonderful for me because it saved my life. And I went to the radiologist and I said, really don't feel well. I'm not getting better. And so they did a ultrasound and I had some swollen lymph nodes up in, my clavicle area. And so from there, we did a chest x-ray and a chest CT, and we saw an enlarged lymph node in my lungs. And it was super small, but I was really sick. I was really sick. I had a really high calcium level. I fought with my new oncologist that I had. Now, feel well. Can we get a PET scan? She didn't want to get a PET scan because I didn't have any symptoms that she felt were, a necessity for getting a PET. And I went back to my primary care doctor and I said, look, something's wrong, feel well. Can you order a PET? And he's like, sure, I can do that for you. I'm like, thank you.
You're like, please,
So
for the love of
yeah,
God. Well, that's what's
that's
so
just what I
scary
want,
well, it's scary because a lot of people watching, I'm sure, don't understand, but, the oncologists, they have kind of just steps that they go through, and you sort of fit into different, plans, I guess you would say, where it's like, okay, if they show these symptoms, you do this, and if they show these symptoms, you do this kind of thing. And so
yeah.
you don't always fall into
You play their
the
game.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
always fall into the plan of a PET scan. And sometimes that can be really very stressful as a breast cancer survivor, because you really want to know, like, you want that peace of mind. And I remember similarly that, like, several years after I was out of breast cancer, I was like, I just want, like, some kind of clean bill of health, some kind of overall scan. And I just went to Viascan in Las Colinas here in the Dallas, Texas area. And it's just like you pay out of pocket and you can have this full body scan. And
Oh
I just,
man.
yeah, I just wanted that peace of mind because I don't fit into the category of somebody who should have a PET scan. Like, I don't have anything that would lead to that. I don't have any of the genetic mutations like you do
That's
or
crazy.
anything like that.
Yeah.
But finally being able to get that PET scan and being able to get them to sign off on it, I'm sure that was a relief. So what happened next? Sorry about that sidebar, but what happened next?
Oh yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, and it's really scary because if I didn't do that and I didn't fight myself, I wouldn't be here. I literally would be dead. Each and every step of the way, I, I'm I would be dead if I didn't follow this route. So I tell you, they went through the PET scan at the oncology office I had, but they were the only one in my area that had a PET scan machine, other than going to the city or going to the hospital and getting it done. And so my primary care doctor sent me over to that facility here in town, and I had it done there. It was really unreal. It was really freaky that the place I was going is the place that didn't want to do the PET. So, but I had it done, and afterwards it was a couple of days, and I worked in a radiology office. I knew you have a right to see your medical records, you have a right to your report. I went down there and I said, I want to have a copy of my PET scan. And he said, well, we can't give that to you. And I said, no, I know what the law is. I do this for a living. Give me the report. And they said, well, I'm sorry, we can't do that. You'll have to make a doctor's appointment. I said, your doctor didn't want to give me the PET scan. Let me see the report. And I really had to get heated. They finally had me sign a waiver. I thought, why are you having me sign a waiver? And then it started to click. Okay, something's going on here. So I signed a waiver, got the results, went in the car, opened up the paperwork, and it was right there. It said, suspected cancer in
So
my lungs.
did you kind of like get in between, like, normally what would happen is you'd have a PET scan and then the doctor would call you and you would go for an appointment, so you were kind of like, I don't want to wait, I want to know the results now kind of thing.
Yeah,
And so
yeah, I didn't want to wait.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
because there's a time period between when the radiologist gets
dude,
the
Tell
paperwork
me.
to the doctor,
Yeah.
and then they look at it, and then they get back to you. Then you
Oh
make an
my God.
appointment. You go in. It
It
could be
can
weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
well, in my case, it was over a weekend. But when you're waiting in that position, it sucks. I mean, I waited 4 days to hear back,
yeah,
but you knew that the radiologist probably knew something, that same day
yeah,
or the next day, and you have to wait until your
yeah.
doctor can actually kind of break the news to you. So, wow, that took some guts, woman.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm sitting here in my car in the parking lot of a place that didn't want to give me the time of day, reading that my PET scan says I have cancer. And I tell you, I didn't know what to do. It was a very freaky, unreal feeling. The first time I was told I had cancer, I was in a doctor's office, and she's like, do you need something to help sleep? I know you're really, this is crazy. You're so young. And do you want to call some family? Can somebody drive you home? But here I am sitting in a parking lot, and I just read my results. So I took it from okay, I could do this. I do this for a living. I see what's on paper. I know what needs to be done. I work at the perfect place with radiologists who love me, and they do this for a living. So I went right to there because I'd taken the day off work and met with one of my favorite radiologists, and he was he was willing to go and take a biopsy. It was very small, but he felt he could do it, so we did, and it was confirmed. It was cancer, and so I moved things really quick. From there, I fought to get it removed. I wanted it out immediately, and I was sick to begin with, so it's not like I was feeling great and I just had a breast lump like I did before. I was really sick. Like I had problems keeping food down and going to work, trying to support myself. I
So
was involved in
scary.
a Yeah, I was involved in a relationship with my husband, and he was violent. So there were all kinds of things going on. So I tried to stay on course, and tried to, make sure that I found a lung doctor who could, take this out. And so things moved really quick. And I know from triple negative that the longer you leave it in, the less chance you have of living. Like I'm talking, it can grow so fast.
Yeah,
And
especially when it comes to
yeah,
triple negative breast cancer that originated like that. That is one of the most aggressive forms of breast cancer. So it is super scary. I'm glad you were
yeah.
aware and knew to
So
act fast.
to tell you how quick it grows, and this will scare the pants out of anybody. So I went and I had a VATS. So it's called a VATS, and they removed it by, the machine or whatever. And so I lost a part of my upper lung lobe on my right side. And I was going to go for my post-op, which was, I think, 8 weeks, or I don't even remember right now. But so I was scheduled for my post-op, and I had gotten a breast MRI like 4 weeks after I had had my surgery. And the doctor, the radiologist, again, they love me, says, we see a shadow. Something's going on. Are you feeling all right? And I'm like, well, I was told I had a clean bill of health. The surgery went great. Hey, there's something there. You need to go get your post-op. So I called a new oncologist, right? Because my other one didn't want to get me a pet. This oncologist says, well, no, we're not going to do the post-op until it's time. I'm like, something's wrong. We got to
Yeah,
do it
this
early.
this is the worst
She's like,
part of going through this stuff
yeah,
is like, yeah, whenever
yeah.
you
I'm
hear
like,
things
I
and
need to talk to the doctor.
yeah,
This office here that I work with is telling me something's going on. Let's move this. Come on.
right, right.
So I had to go to my OB/GYN to order me a post-op chest CT. It's crazy. I'm telling you, my story, it's nuts. So I went to my OB/GYN. She ordered the chest CT, came back that I had a tumor growing adjacent to where they had removed the lung tumor. So now it was in my paratracheal lymph node. So I was having a hard time breathing, hard time
Oh my
eating. I was
gosh.
choking on food, choking on
Terrifying.
medication. And so it had already grown so much. It was, I think, 3 centimeters in just 4 short weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, it was trying to kill me. So from there I went to this oncologist who didn't want to fight me either, with my daughter. And we went in the room, and took one look at what's going on, and she said he just had surgery. didn't even reach your post-op, and now you got cancer growing out of control in your, in your chest, and I think you should focus on just quality of life right now. Is there anything? You give me anything? I'll be willing to do anything, any type of cancer treatment. There's really nothing, she said, just, your daughter's here. You should focus on her and living life as best you can. And I saw a Kleenex box, and all I thought was the Kleenex going to be empty by the time I
Yeah.
get out of here, because I was just bawling. And I looked at my daughter, and I just thought, oh crap, I got to fight. So I said, is there anything in the city? And I'm talking city, I'm talking about Seattle, because I know that's where the research hospitals are, like Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research and all that, national recognized. And so she said, well, no, I don't think so, but I'll go ahead and call over there. And I said, please do. So in the meantime, I called every place in the United States. I called UCLA, MD Anderson. I called some up in Virginia, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, the Mayo Clinic. I started calling places. I made a reservation on an airplane to California. And then I got a call from Seattle, and they said, you can come in for a consult. And I said, okay. My daughter and I went in there. We sat in a round table with 6 people. And he said, we're going to save your life. And at that point, I was so exhausted. I just put it in their hands. I was going to do whatever they told me to do, because at that point, I didn't know what to do anymore. And I'm alive today, and that's over 10 and a half years ago.
Oh my gosh.
2010, actually. Yeah.
So what all did they do? What kind of like treatment? What was the plan?
They signed me up right away for 2 clinical trials. One was a phase 3 I did for 6 months straight, 24 chemos every week. Just about killed me. I had some blood transfusions. Ended up getting separated from my abusive husband, because he was abusive and hitting me in where I had a chest tube that was trying to heal. And
Are you
so
kidding me? He
yeah,
like
yeah.
literally
So
hit you.
yeah, yeah,
Gosh.
where my chest tube was healing. And so it wasn't healing right. And so, my blood counts were low. I got, I just kept doing what they told me. And so I got exhausted, and 6 months was coming up, and I got my test results, my scans, and the doctor says it's growing again. I thought, I'm going to die. All this, I'm going to die. But I've done the best I could, and I hope I've done good. And so if I do die, I'll know that I did all I can. And so he's like, well, no, we're not going to do that. We got one more in my pocket. I'm like, okay,
You're
like
like,
Dr. Gotti.
wow.
So he signed me up for a phase 1, and I'm telling you, this thing kicked my butt. So phase 1 is tough.
So
And so
just
yeah.
real quick, I just for those, because we've had a few people join just recently. So we're talking to Brenda here, who basically you had a scare early on that you realized later was probably breast cancer. Then you were diagnosed with breast cancer. Then you were diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. Then you found tumors in your lung, near your trachea, just getting sick. And now we're at this point. This is about 10 years ago now, where they're like, originally they were telling you, hey, just do the best for your quality of life, and you're like, give me anything. You get into a clinical trial, and this doctor out of nowhere just will not give up on you, and so now you're on this a beginning stage trial like you're talking about right now, and take us from there, man. It's just an incredible story.
Yeah.
Incredible.
This is where it's just unreal, and my skin just, I get tingles. So I just thought, oh, this guy's an angel, he's going to save my life. And so he put me on a phase 1 with some heavy duty cisplatin and some other drugs, and one of them was a trial drug called ABT-888. And there were 30 something other people on my trial, and they started dying. So the odds were not good in my favor. And the phase 1, they bump you up to a point where it's going to be safe for others. So there's people who are actually dying and not making it. So it's really tough. And I ended up just climbing the ladder and doing really good, really good, and I ended up being the one that's doing the best. And so they started following me, and I kept getting scans, and they kept coming better and better, and my cancer stopped growing, and there was no new cancer growing. So, but I couldn't tolerate it anymore. So in December of 2011, I said, "This is going to be my last one. I hope it'll be enough to keep me where I'm at and not the cancer not grow anymore." And so that was it. That was the last chemo that I had in my body by infusion through my port, and that was December 2011. December 2012 or January 2012 ended up taking this ABT by itself, and that's the drug that has saved me. So I've been on this drug, monotherapy, since January 2012.
Wow.
So yeah, it'll be 10 years in June that I have been on this trial, and they ended up closing the trial. It was presented at the symposiums and whatnot, and I got a lot of notoriety. I was on TV and in some books and magazines, and became the longest living breast cancer patient in the world to be on this drug. And we don't know why. I'm doing so well on it. I just am. And so they started using my experiences as a means to inform other patients what the drug would do to them. And it hasn't been easy at all. It's destroyed my sun protection. My skin is a mess. I almost am to the point where I need an EpiPen, but you know what? I can't complain because I'm still here,
Yeah, it's amazing. So in talking through the stories, you as far as your breast cancer went, you just had a lumpectomy, and then you had the surgery for the tumor in your lung. And other than that, you had no other surgeries. Is that right?
Well, I did actually in 2016. I had gone in for a mammogram, and I actually felt a lump on the same side that I had my breast cancer. And so they did a surgery. They want to do a mastectomy. I'm like, you know what? I've had my breast this long. I don't want to go through any surgery because I don't want my blood counts to go down. I don't want my immune system to be compromised. So just do the lumpectomy and let's go from there. So they took what tissue they could, and it came back that I had in IDC within invasive ductal carcinoma with ductal carcinoma in situ. So one of them was encapsulated inside the other. So it talk about trying to kill you. My God, this PARP drug that's kept me alive because of my BRCA mutation. By the way, I'm doing probably so well on it that this triple negative was trying to find a way around it and trying to be sneaky. And so they took the tumor out, and they said, well, since you're on this trial, we can't really do anything for this unless you come off this medication. I'm like, I'm not coming off this ABT, no way. So that's what I just had the lumpectomy on that, and that was in 2016. So my cancer has been a bump of every 4.5 years. So I thought, okay, do I have to go another 4.5 years? 2016, that would put me about 20, in the half year of 2020, but I skated by and I didn't have anything. So I'm hoping that the spell's been broken.
Yeah, really?
It's like I'll
Wow.
continue to do well. So it's been crazy. My cancer has just been crazy.
Yeah,
But yeah.
we've had Dr. Joyce O'Shaughnessy on a few times. She's a breast cancer oncologist. Talked some about this PARP inhibitor. So that's part of the medication that you're on, I guess. And
Yes.
is that
Yes.
specific? Do you know, is that specific for triple negative breast cancer? Is it specific for BRCA positive individuals, or is it just for any kind of breast cancer? Do you know?
Yeah, I would say that in my opinion, it performs the best on a triple negative BRCA mutation cancer. So the other people that died that I got to know in the trial, they did not have triple negative, and they didn't have a BRCA mutation. So it seemed to be that that's why it was doing the best for me. And you'll see my data in the trial information online. Is that so they have these boxes that are depicted of all these patients, and mine's the red column. I'm all the way up to the top, and everybody else is down here, and it's crazy because I didn't make it, and we were on the same drug. we had the same breast cancer, but we
So
didn't have the same type,
yeah,
you
and
know?
so these other ladies that were on the same trial as you, did you get to know them personally? Were y'all seated next to each other during treatments and things like that? So it wasn't like
Yeah,
it. And so you noticed, hey, people are dropping like flies around me. This is, I mean, what
yeah,
did that
it was
feel like?
hard.
That's yeah, just
Oh,
crazy.
it was hard. I'd see them, we'd be sitting, and they would go in to see the doctor before me. Now, where I went in Seattle, it's a big facility, so there's tons of doctors, and it would be crazy that they would go to my doctor before me, 30 minutes, and then I'm after them, and then they see them come out and they're in tears. And I knew they weren't doing well. You could just see, my hair started growing back, and they're losing theirs because they have to go on a different drug. And sometimes that would be the last time I'd see them as at that appointment. And it started to really take a toll on me. And I started to climb into a box, literally, and become extremely fearful and then become extremely guilty. Like, why me? Why am
Yeah.
I here?
It's, we talk about
You
it
know?
from time to time here on the beat that survivor's guilt is a real thing. It's like, when you get to know other breast cancer survivors who aren't as fortunate, who either struggle or you know lose their life to breast cancer, and then you just kind of wonder, exactly why me, but
Yeah, it can take your life too, April, because I have drugs here because I ended up going on opioids and on fentanyl, and have grade 3 neuropathy because of all the chemo, and can barely walk, and I had to end up using a cane sometimes. And I could take my life at any time. It only takes, I realize with breast cancer patients, that's what I try to tell them now. I run a stage 4 group for triple negative, is that you need to pay attention to your mental health, because anybody can push you over that boundary line. And sometimes you're your only caregiver, you're your only person. And if somebody isn't over there saying, hey, check in, come back to us, you're floating away. You're getting those thoughts in your head. You don't want to fight and take your medication, that you're gonna wake up the next morning and you're gonna make a mistake. I have to remember I take my PARP twice a day. I take 8 pills a day. That's just that medication. Then I got the fentanyl patch that I changed. I was on the pills. Then I have the breakthrough medication. Then I have my supplements. Then I have my own medication for everything else that I take medically. So you have to be on top of the game. You have to be on top of it. Now you've got mental health coming in, or if you've gone through domestic violence like I have, or you're single by yourself, it becomes a whole different ball game. I'm doing so well now that I'm not being monitored as closely as I was. And that has become a problem for me. Not that it's bad medically, but because it's put more pressure on me. So I now go to mental health counseling, so it's
Well,
become a big deal for me.
it's so important to stay in tune with yourself, like you said, and be aware of how you're feeling and ask for help when you need help. And it's so good that you're so self aware that you're doing that and you're taking care of yourself as best you can physically with all this medication, but especially emotionally too. After going
Yeah.
through such a horrible time with your ex partner there, and making your way through this as miraculous as it is, just an insane story. So when you were first diagnosed, I think you said you were 37, and so you're like mid 50s now, right? So that's a lot of
Yeah.
it's a lot of life happening. A lot of crazy hurdles to be jumping over. So do they consider that you're like stage 4? Are you still considered stage 4, or are you
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
have,
I'm still stage 4.
and do they consider that, like, do you have known tumors and they're just not growing anymore, or are you no evidence of, does it, like, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, everything's frozen. I had cancer, ended up spreading into my liver. I struggled with that a lot. Then, I have a few spots in my lungs, but nothing is growing out of, craziness. I mean, I'm stable. I've been stable now for a while, and literally, yeah, I mean, I can feel some days when I'm not doing well. Cancer's trying to kill me today. It's trying to, So I just, I don't go anywhere. I don't go on trips because I don't want my immune system to drop. I just want everything to just keep going the way it is. And I'm still here. So it was 20 years ago, by the way, that I had my first scare. So when I was 37, I'm 57 now. So it's
Wow, what a
really, yeah.
amazing battle and overcoming such insane adversity. What an amazing story. You really are nothing short of a miracle. So at this point now, Brenda, are they like still do they do like PET scans annually, or what kind of checkups do you have right now?
Yeah. So I had a brain MRI about 3, 4 years ago, and I haven't had a PET scan for probably my last one was 2010. And so I used to go get regularly every 8 weeks, and then it went to 12 weeks, and so now I'm bumped up every 6 months for CT scans. And I'm not going to take it any further than that. I don't feel comfortable. I'm still stage 4, and so it's evident triple negative's trying to kill me. If I stop this drug, I'll die. So, you know, um, it's a battle game each day, but I take the medication, and hopefully, it's just something I have to do the rest of my life. It's
Well,
crazy.
yeah, you are a walking miracle, and I'm so happy that we're able to share your story with the ladies out there that are going through similar things as you. I know that you'll be a beacon of hope for them. I know for me, you've been a real inspiration, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you through our conversations here, looking at each other through a computer screen. So I hope to meet you in person one day, and please keep us posted on how you're doing, Brenda, because it is such a miraculous story. And maybe next year we have our triple negative breast cancer broadcast each year. So maybe you could join as a triple negative breast cancer survivor next year and come back and give us a nice update on how you're doing.
That would be awesome. I would be honored. I hope to still be the longest living breast cancer patient in the world on this drug.
I bet you will be. You're miraculous, girl. Thank you so much for taking time out. We're gonna make sure and pop this interview with you up on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/breast cancer can stick. That's youtube.com/breast cancer can stick. And I just want to thank you again, Brenda, for joining the show tonight. And I can't wait to hear how you're doing after a little bit of time has passed. And let's just keep in touch, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank
Have
you.
have a great night.
You
All right,
too.
guys, that was Brenda from Seattle, Washington area. Amazing rock star.